Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Power Hour Episode 7, presented by Intelligent Application. I am your host, Fazil, and with me is my co host, Ryan.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today.
Right, so the first part that we did last week was identifying KPIs and defining KPIs and identifying data sources, right? And we would have outlined a 5 week plan to get from the idea to the dashboard. So today's video, we want to look at data model design and transforming our data, if we have existing data or new data, into that data model. This is the sheet that Riyad and I would have filled out in last week's episode, where we came up with a fictional business and we identified some KPIs that we wanted to track or important to the business. And we identified the potential data sources and filters, etc., for these, right? So over the weekend, I would have generated some test data to mimic that. So we have a sheet for dates. We have an order listing or order log.
And for those of you wondering why we have a whole sheet for dates, you could refer to one of our previous videos on where we talk about the importance of a date table and how it fits into the data model.
Definitely. So yeah, we will link that in the description. And closer to the end of this video, I will show you guys our YouTube playlist where you could find all the videos we've done thus far. So if you're joining us for the first time, you could catch up. Yeah, so about it, right? So continuing with this document, so we have the order listing. So just some generated data that we have to mimic a real order table. Now, right, so I have an order ID column, date, source. So whether the parts were purchased online or in store, some customer information, some product information, and some pricing and value, right? Similarly, we have a purchase history or purchase order where we would purchase our products from suppliers. So you can see that here, purchase date, supplier information, product information, value. We also have some information with regards to the expected date of delivery and the actual date. Since in our KPIs we defined, we wanted to see what the average delay from the supplier was. So that's something that you may be interested in tracking. All right. We also have an inventory, right? So this is again test data, may not be quite realistic. I think here we are tracking inventory monthly. So yeah, that may not be the case. It might be daily or weekly in your scenario. And the last one we have, which you may not have, so this is something you have to set yourselves. So this would be your targets. Here we have sales targets. So we just have a date representing the month, and we have a general sales target for the month. Now this is very basic. If you wanted to set targets on the product level, you can do that, but it would be more granular, so it would be more work, right?
More work sometimes is needed for better results. Today we're going to be continuing with data modeling, which is something we touched on in a previous video. So this will be a good opportunity to see a practical example of the model.
Yeah, as you say that, let me just preview it one time. I know I said I would do it later on. This is our YouTube channel. So this is our Power Hour series videos that we have done thus far. So the first one is an introduction to Power BI. So from the beginner level, if you have never heard about Power BI before, you could start there and slowly get ramped up with us. And I think you guys should definitely check it out. Okay, so one other thing that we wanted to kind of speak about before we proceed is that this data was generated and it was done so in a standard way. What I mean is that we have some kind of, so let's take customer for example. We have some kind of customer ID column and the customer details such as name, location, customer segmentation, etc. Similar for the product, we have some kind of unique column with a product ID. Right now, this may not be the case if you guys are capturing data using some kind of modern solution. It should be capturing it like this. So this would be ideal if this is how you're recording your data. So it would be very useful. You will see later on. If you are not capturing data in any standard form with any kind of unique column to identify things, it's much more difficult and it would require a much more robust ETL solution to optimize the data for reporting, right? The second thing is that if you are recording data or whatever system, you have some kind of legacy system that is capturing data and it is in an unstructured format such that some of the fields are free text. That is another problem area that you guys would encounter. In that case, you would require to do data cleaning and then do data transformations to get to this point, right? Brian, you want to speak on that maybe?
So yeah, with this Power BI, it really relies on a structured data that, for lack of a better word, is more rigid. So you need to be careful with, those older legacy systems and data generally being free text. One of the things Fazil and I would have touched on in the video where we spoke about the star schema, we would have once again mentioned about having some sort of quote unquote key to link, the dimension tables to the fact table or the main table with information in it. So yeah, those row counts or keys, that's something that's very important. And the data as well, to having structured data versus just a full free flow, free text type information.
All right. So yeah, you guys could check out our video on data modeling. This would just be a brief rundown for you guys in 2 minutes. So data modeling is how we organize or structure our data. We have facts and dimensions. So the fact is what you want to report on. So in this case, things we want to report on are sales, profit, revenue, that sort of thing. And the dimensions, the things that we want to slice our data by would usually be like, in the case of sales data, we have product information, customer information, location, and of course, date, the most important for time series data, right? And the green just describes the granularity of those. This is a quick view of what a star schema data model looks like. Right, so we have the fact table at the center and it is linked to the various dimension tables, right? And we do this data modeling to optimize our reports for efficiency. When our data grows, data loading becomes an issue, and with this model, you are preparing your data for the future, right?
And one of the good things about using Power BI and setting up your model properly, it saves time in the long run. So future proofing is something you should take into place, because all the work you do now means later on things will be much easier when you're bringing in more data.
Yep, exactly. All right, so I'm going to open up Power BI. And of course, you guys can download Power BI Desktop, which is free from Microsoft. I think after today's session, what I'll try to do is I'll try to upload my dataset files or at least link them in the description under the video. So if you guys want to use my data set and go through these steps by yourselves later on, you guys could do that. Cool. So we have our blank Power BI canvas here. Right. Again, if none of this is familiar to you, please look at our first video, Introduction to Power BI, and you guys should be fine with that video. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to import our data into Power BI. So we go to Get Data, we click on Excel, and you can see my file here, F&R Electronics. Click Open.
Just as a reminder, Power BI will allow us to import data from almost any data source, any database file, even APIs on the internet.
Yep, definitely. All right, so Power BI has read our Excel file, and these are the sheets it has found. Now, the ones we are interested in would be our dates, inventory, orders, purchases, and sales target. All right, once we have highlighted those, we will click transform data because we want to do some data transformations to create the data model. So we go into transform data. If you're using a older version of Power BI, transform data might be edit, the word edit. So bear that in mind, but I do urge you to update your Power BI, keep it updated.
Microsoft releases a new update every month, so
yeah, it's really easy to fall behind on the features if your Power BI is not up to date. All right, so we have our data. We could see each of the tables here as queries in the Power Query Editor. Now we already have our dates, our date table here, and again, you guys could look at the video on how we created this date table. So fear not, it's really simple, right? So what we want to do basically is we want to separate out product information, customer information, so the dimensions that we were speaking about earlier into dimension tables that we could link to the fact table. And in this case, the fact tables would be inventory, orders, and purchases. Now, you can use the data as is. There's nothing wrong with using the data as is. The issue would arise though is if I had dashboards that were reporting on inventory and orders on the same page, and I wanted to use a common product filter, I would not be able to do so because you would have product name or product in the inventory table, you would have product in the orders table, and you would not, if you wanted to use one filter would not work because it would need to reference the two tables. It would need to be linked. Okay, so that's one reason. The second reason we're optimizing it by doing a data model is that we want efficiency, right? So it reduces the number of columns and the size of the data and the read speed. Okay, so how we're going to separate this out. Right, so the idea is that, and again, you could reference our data modeling video. The idea is that the fact table should have the reference to the dimension. So in this case, let's say we're looking at product. What we want to capture out of what we want to have on the fact table is the product ID. So that is the reference. And the dimension table would again have the same product ID. So it's a matching reference. and then it would have the product details. So how do we do this?
Just a reminder, Power BI wouldn't let us connect these tables together if the reference is not unique.
Exactly. All right, so the first step that we want to do is I want to duplicate the inventory table. Right, and we could call this the products. Another reason why I'm using the inventory table to create this dimension is that the inventory table would have all of our products ever purchased or sold. So it has the entire listing of the products, right? So what we want to do here now is we want to delete all of these columns except anything related to product, right? So inventory date, we don't want that. Units, don't want that. Value, right? Think that's it. Everything else we want. So let's click on remove columns. And now we're left with the products. The next step here would, because we are making this a dimension table, we just need each unique product once in the table, no repetition. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on product ID, and what we're going to do is click remove duplicates.
Power BI makes this such an easy task.
Amazing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
amazing and easy.
yeah, so it removed all the duplicates. Now we have unique products, no repetition, and the excellent thing is that Power Query Editor, it retains these steps on the side. You can see applied steps, right? So there's no need to do this again if you enter new products or update your data set. It runs the data through this steps, and that's it. Really amazing.
And for those of you coming over from Excel, almost I think everything you can do in Excel, you will be able to replicate within this Power Query editor.
Yeah, sounds good. So we have our first dimension. That's the products. Right now we go back to inventory, and because we have our D products dimension set up, we can take off the rest of columns regarding product except the reference, which is product ID. Right. Oops, having a small issue there. Okay, I think we got it. Right, and again, right click, remove columns. Right, that's it. Let's take a look at the orders table. All right. So again, here we have a dimension for source. We have a dimension for customer, and again we have product. Right. So since we already have our product dimensions set up, we don't need these product details. We could remove those. Right. What we do want is to duplicate this twice. So one for source and one for customer. right? Same process here. We delete all the columns that we don't have anything to do with source. Oops.
You lost control there.
Yeah. Right. Any questions on the chat round?
Not right now. Chat is well managed.
Okay, cool. All right, so and again here we just do right click, remove duplicates, and we have a simple source dimension table. All right, the next one we're going to look at is customer. Again, here we just delete everything except customer. Right, so really simple stuff. Once you do these steps once, you don't need to do them again, especially if your data structure never changes. Right, and we can remove duplicates again, and we have our customer listed. All right, let's go back to orders. So now we can remove source name because we just want the reference, and we can remove all these customer columns except customer ID, which is the reference. Glitching out. Okay, got it. Right, now look at this. How many columns did we just remove from our fact table, which is the main table and is going to grow into the future, right? So we're saving data already, we're optimizing the system. Right, the last one that we want to take a look at would be purchases. And purchases, what do we have? We have supplier and we have product. But since we already have product dimension set up, we can just keep the reference, which is product ID. Oops. All right, so we can delete those details.
See how much duplicate, if you guys would notice the amount of duplicate data we are removing.
Yeah.
By creating this data model.
I'm gonna duplicate this. I wanna call this the supplier. I wanna remove all these columns except supplier. And again, right click, we remove duplicates, and we have a list of our suppliers. And that's it. We have a dimension table for customer, supplier, source, product. Last step would be to check our purchases table. We could remove the supplier name, right? And we have an optimized purchases table, right? Now that we are happy with this, we have our facts, we have our dimensions. We can click close and apply. Click on apply changes. Give Power BI a minute to evaluate it. Yeah. All right. So we have the data model, the data view, sorry. So we can see information on our tables. And we have the model view. And here, okay, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Wow, the table seems kind of crazy. All right, so that would indicate some blank columns on the Excel. So you could clean up that by just removing the columns. But look at this. So Power BI has automatically detected the relationships between the tables, and because we labeled our product, our dimension IDs the same, it detected it accurately. So we can see supplier ID is linked with supplier ID, product ID is linked to product ID, order table is linked to the products, inventory product ID is linked to the products, etc.
More times than not, Power BI will always try to detect and automatically create and maintain the relationships for
Yep,
us. But
definitely.
it's always good to review them, because sometimes what you have in mind and what Power BI has in mind may not always be in alignment.
Yeah, I would definitely review them as well, especially this is a simple data model, so you can actually see all the tables and relationships. But in some of the data models that Ryan and I work with, it gets really, really big. So it's good to just go over them one by one or manage them yourself one by one so you know exactly what's in your data model. Now, you could turn off that feature and you could do your relationships by yourself, but because this is accurate, I will leave it and you guys could take a look and feel free to scrutinize. The only thing that's missing here, as you can see, is links to our date table. And why is that? Because look at the date fields in these tables: inventory date, order date, and what do we have? Purchase date. Those names are not common to anything in the date table. The field that we actually want to link those to is the date key, which is the lowest granularity in the date table. So to do that, take a look at our video on how to create relationships. I will use the simple method for you today, and that is simple click and drag. So what we want to do is we want to link order date to date key. Oops. Right? And Power BI has created that relationship for me. Similarly, we want to do that for purchase date. And we want to do that for inventory date. Right? And that's it. That is our entire data model. Any questions? Ryan, what's your thoughts on this?
Looks good, looks exciting, looks like we are about to do some good visualizations.
Alright, so that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, found it informative or helpful. So data transformation, simple. Data modeling, really simple again. Simple data set, simple KPIs. Just a practical exercise to get you guys acquainted with Power BI, right? I want to show you guys. So we're stopping there for today. Next week, we'll be using this data model and the data set that we have. We'll be building out some simple charts on Power BI, and we'll be using some built-in predefined measures that Power BI has already to just create some simple report, right?
Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the word measure, that would be Power BI's own dynamic calculation, if you may, that will, well, it performs calculations for us and it will automatically adjust from to accommodate all possible parameters and combinations of the data being input into that calculation.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you guys might like next week's episode. We're starting to do some visuals, report creation. I know that's the most exciting part for most people, but again, the back end and the preparation of the data is so important. It's like 80-90% of the work, right? So looking forward to you guys joining us next week. Any closing remarks from you, Ryan?
Just that I hope, all the viewers, they enjoy it and they follow along with the examples that we're doing. And I hope to see them next time.
Yep, definitely. So thank you guys for joining us. Look out for our newsletter. Subscribe so you can get all the updates. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like the video. Share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues, anyone who is interested in data or Power BI. I know a lot of organizations are moving towards Power BI and a lot of people are interested. So share the video. It might benefit someone. Right. So thank you guys. See you guys next week, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you guys then. Take care.
All right, guys, take care.